My name is Jonathan Harris, and this is my story of Colorblind. I am from Long Beach, and I currently go to Beach High School, and my favorite subject is history, and I currently play the sports soccer, football, and track. Some qualities I learned from my father are manhood, perseverance, scholarship, and uplift, because that's what he told all my brothers when we were little, and that's what I've been going through my whole life. Some qualities I picked up from my mother are don't give up and always work your hardest so you could provide for yourself and other people. I hope my story Colorblind sends a message to all kids of all skin colors that it's not about the color of your skin but the culture of who you are, and not to judge people by the color of their skin but by the qualities they have inside.
Uncle Russell and Jonathan have a very special relationship. They met when Uncle Russell was incarcerated, and upon his release, Jonathan was the person who kind of, I guess, reoriented him to society, because when Uncle Russell went to prison, they didn't have cell phones, and now we have cell phones and all the internet and those things. So Jonathan was the one who showed him the ropes. I think the biggest lesson is just learn to respect cultures and find similarities. You can always find a difference and find someone, find something negative or find something different. But there's so many more similarities. But the only way you can do that, I think, if you know your own history. And then you'll be open to learn. You'll learn to appreciate and respect your own history. And then you can do the same for others and look for similarities. But kids have to be encouraged. I mean, as adults, we have to encourage them to do that, because it seems like it's almost natural to find differences, contrasts. In my opinion, the greatest thing about Jonathan is his gift of empathy, his spirit of empathy. The fact that he can get out of himself enough to care for others and to try to feel what they're feeling. And he does a really good job at it. He does a really good job at doing that.
From my perspective, Jonathan doesn't see it. He doesn't see skin color. He looks at everybody the same. Jonathan is able to communicate and interact with all different cultures. Jonathan has this unique ability to see people for who they are and not the color of their skin. After the unfortunate incident with law enforcement inside our home, being that I work in law enforcement, I needed my children to understand that not everyone, in law enforcement is negative. So things that I did to make sure that my sons did not, have a clouded view on law enforcement is, I took them to my job. I let them see other law enforcement officers and public safety officials who had good qualities, who would do the right thing. And I just let them know that, we all make mistakes. There's times where, unfortunately, people are blinded by, color or, race, but not everybody thinks that way. So even though you come across a situation where you may be victimized, sometimes you have to use that situation to learn from and then not be victimized again. In the book Colorblind, the one part that really touched me was Jonathan's interaction with his mother when they talked about the movie 42. I have watched that movie, before and after, and it is a true illustration of a person who has overcame racial biases, who has learned to deal with cultural differences, and who has always strived to have, racial harmony amongst all. And I was just, happy to see that, that message was being, given to Jonathan, and that his mother was able to share that message with him. And that was like one of the many different things that we have done to make sure that Jonathan promotes racial harmony among all.
When kids come in, if they memorize the following quote, they get a free haircut. The quote is, "The identity of victory extracted from your vision of victory, but embraced in the present with absolute confidence." As Jonathan got older, I wanted him to understand that human beings are far more complex than body color can capture. So there are only 7 or 8 body colors in the entire human spectrum, but there are over 100 cultures of people right here in Los Angeles. And so clearly, multiple cultures of people are going to share a common body color. So it's ridiculous to classify people according to the colors or the distinct colors of their bodies. It doesn't work. The color paradigm is obsolete. The real issue is make and model, just like a car. What's your culture and when did you get here? And that's the issue. After 19 years, 2 months, and 5 days, I was granted my freedom, and I came home. It was surreal, to say the least. But the first time I saw my nephews, it was a beautiful experience. But I think it was most interesting to see the impact that it had on Jonathan. Because all of the different principles that I was teaching him and that I wanted him to understand, he could now not only hear it in a shortened version, but he could hear the lengthened version of it. And so it was a wonderful experience and gave me the opportunity to be a part of his life when he was just a little guy, and to watch him grow with the things that I was teaching him. Well, I think Jonathan has a bright future. I think the perspective, the social perspective that he has is what gives him an advantage. He's seen a lot in his young life. He's been exposed to a lot in his young life. And I think the perspective from which he can operate makes him such that he will be an asset to anything that he decides to pursue. He'll bring a lot to the table. He's a quality individual. And as a result, I think that whatever he chooses to do, he's going to excel at. And not only that, I think he'll have a positive impact on everybody who's involved in whatever it is that he chooses to pursue.
My name is Jonathan Harris, and I hope you enjoyed the story of Colorblind.